This episode of From Angel to Exit is brought to you by Dash. Dash offers remote knowledge workers to streamline workflows for U.S. businesses. Services include CRM management, email organization, social media content, bookkeeping, research, lead generation, and more. Dash professionals save clients time by managing routine tasks, allowing businesses to focus on growth and other high-value activities. For more information, visit hirewithdash.com. Are you serious about planning a successful business exit? From Angel to Exit is your go-to resource. Subscribe to our newsletter at eckfeldt.com/podcast for even more valuable insights. And to get personalized guidance, take our free exit readiness assessment. It's just 24 questions, and it will give you a clear picture of your exit readiness. Find the assessment at eckfeldt.com/exit. Submit your results, and we'll schedule a free follow-up call to discuss your specific situation and the best way to maximize your valuation and ensure a successful transaction. Now, back to the episode. Welcome, everyone. This is From Angel to Exit. I'm Bruce Eckfeldt. I'm your host. Our guest today, Sam Arman. He is a serial entrepreneur, exited multiple times. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of things, I think. We're going to have some great conversation. And I'm excited for this, just given Sam's background and having been through this process a couple of times. I'm sure has learned lots of things in multiple ways, hopefully not more than once, but has a lot of kind of experience in doing this, not only for himself, but working with companies going through this process. So I'm excited about this. I think there's going to be a lot of great information. So with that, Sam, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you, Bruce. Glad to be here.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure. I would love to just kind of start at the beginning. I know not only do you have a great professional business background, but you've got a great personal background. I'd love to kind of start there, and I'd love to kind of understand how that set you up to become an entrepreneur, to be a business leader. Give us a little story there, and then we can kind of dig into your entrepreneurial endeavors.
Well, it all started when I was 2. I'm kidding. On a serious note, I was born in Iran, and I went to College of Engineering, Civil Engineering, and I dealt with some social issues over there. There was a new government, a revolution. Make a long story short, I had to run and get out of Iran after the revolution. I went to Pakistan. I was a refugee there for almost 15 months, and then I secured a scholarship, which brought me to the Ohio State University in Columbus, Ohio. In Iran, I did civil engineering. Here I go, and my advisor tells me that there's no money in civil engineering. So I said, what should I do? And she said, computers. And I said, I don't know anything about computers, and I would never forget this. That's your problem. So I made it my problem, and I switched to computer science. I finished my engineering degree in 2.5 years. I get out of school looking for a job, and I can't find anything I like. Yeah. And I have zero. This is the challenge that, if for those who want to get into the entrepreneurial realm, I would say, please get some experience. My challenge was I was an engineer, and I think I was a good one, but with zero business experience, it's so hard to learn everything from scratch and reinvent every wheel by yourself. So make a long story short, in 1986, I started the company by just putting pieces of computer together and selling it. I ordered it out of a mail order because I didn't know there was such a thing called a distributor, wholesaler. I didn't know. Yeah. I didn't know anything about accounting, profitability, nothing, marketing and sales. I remember I talked to this gentleman. He spent 2 hours trying to explain to me the difference between marketing and sales. And my engineering brain could not understand. So marketing and sales, the way you call it marketing. If sales is marketing, why do you call it sales? Anyways, I had to learn everything through the School of Hard Knocks. Basically one company, then we did a second company and a third. Make a long story short, I sold 3 companies. One of them was a .com, USA.com in 2000. I sold 2 of them in 99 and 1 of them in 2000. And that got me into selling businesses. It was cool I sold 2 of my companies to a company that was doing an IPO on NASDAQ. So that experience was good. I was, entrepreneur guy who doesn't know anything. And I'm saying I'm swimming with sharks, literally. I mean, these guys have been on Wall Street for 15 years, and I'm negotiating with them using my Persian skills and all that. It was all good. So after that, I chose to switch. I had enough of IT because of my college engineering background. That's what my business was. All 3 of my companies were in technology and IT, managed services and so forth. My brother, by the way, through all of this, he's 2 years younger than I am. He was my partner in crime. We did everything together. And it's, again, another note for you guys. If you know someone that you have a good trusting relationship and an ethical trusting relationship, those two key things are really essential. And in my case, I was lucky because I know my partner's parents. He was my brother. So that all of that helped. And he was my partner through everything. So come 2000, I'm done with IT. And I said, I want to do mergers and acquisitions, something that's topic of your podcast.
Yes.
And my brother doesn't want to do anything with it. He says, no, I want to do another IT company. So he starts another IT company, and I became a equity owner. But I said, I'm done. I become an owner, but I don't want to do operations.
Yeah.
So I go do M&A, and boy, was it a blast. I had to learn a lot. I had to go back to school. I remember going to Chicago, sitting up in classes, understanding business valuation, understanding how the deals are structured, all of those nuts and bolts and all that. Anyway, I learned all of it, and I go through it. Everything is kosher and nice. I go all the way to 2011. And by the way, during this time, I had moved to Florida. I come back to Ohio to see my parents, and I realized that these guys do not need visits. They need care. So I remarried. I tell my new bride, let's go. We got to be close to mom and dad. And she supported me. We come here. And my brother gets me back into IT. So I put my M&A business on hold. This is 2012. And we get into IT. And here's the challenge. And again, this is another lesson for entrepreneurs out there. Remember, Alan and I, this was our fifth IT company together, because we built some that the startups that haven't gone through it, haven't explained it, but this was our fifth IT company. Even with that background, this company was about to go bust. We started in 01. Remember, I was an equity owner. Come to 2012, the company is on flames.
Yeah.
We've made some sales. Everything is good, but it's going to blow up. It's going to implode, depending on how you look at it. So we came in, we fired everybody, with the exception of 3 people.
How many people were in the company?
Yeah, start a company from scratch.
Yeah.
And again, this brings up to the topic that you and I are going to discuss. And when I did this, remember now I'm a little bit of an age, this 2012 wasn't too long ago. And I'm saying, okay, this time we're going to plan for exit day 1. Again, that's part of the subject matter you and I are going to discuss. So 2012, I joined my brother. 2014, because of my M&A background, I go find a private equity in Boston. I say, can you please buy me? And they look at me and say, not right now. 2016, 2018, 2019, I did the deal. March 2nd, we closed the deal. March 13th, we sent our employees home after the merger because we have COVID. Talk about good timing. So that brings me up to here. So I hope this was to give you a kind of a good cool.
It paints a really good picture of, both you personally and I think what drives you, and it's clear you light up around a couple of these kind of topics, but also kind of the types of experiences you've had. Yeah. And I love the fact that it's not just, I've just been super successful in everything I've done, and it's always been a cakewalk. I'm kind of curious to go back to, when you started the first company. Where did you feel when did you feel like you knew you were going to be an entrepreneur, or this whole kind of the idea of starting a business, of running a business versus being an engineer? Like, when did that kind of hit you, or when did you feel, has that always been with you? Is this like, when did that bug kind of, get implanted in you of like, I want to own and run businesses?
Very good question. I have to tell you a story from age 12. By the way, you and I are both EO members, entrepreneurs organizations. And I call EO Alcoholic Anonymous for entrepreneurs. But again, that's the caveat. Entrepreneurship, in my opinion, it's a bug. Either you have it or you don't. Yeah. There are a lot of people who do entrepreneurship. It's not really, they're into it because they've been more or less pushed into it or got into it. But there are those of us that no matter what you do, it doesn't matter how much money you give us, how much comfort you give us, we have to do that. If we go on a vacation, we enjoy the first 10 minutes of it. And then the last 2 days, we're looking, can I start something else? And who can I partner with? And what property is available to buy? So anyways, all I'm saying is that entrepreneurship bug was in me. I'll give you a story when I was 12 years old. I'm 12 years old and I'm selling some candy I have this little box hanging off my neck, and I'm selling candy, and I go these buses that go through the town. I buy 3 candies for one of our money, and I'm in Iran. I'm a kid. I didn't speak one word of English, and I offer my candy. I buy 3 for one, and then I sell them each for one. So I made 66% profit.
Nice.
And it was good. So my dad sees me, and he is against any of this. Study, study, study. Academics, academics. So I got a beating for doing that, and I wasn't allowed to do it. The next day, our neighbor's kid had that box around them, and my dad sees me walking with him. He says, "What's going on?" I said, "You told me not to do it. Now he's doing it. I'm losing all the money, and by the way, all I'm doing is walking." The truth, that was my box on his neck.
Yeah.
So you have the
just outsourced.
entrepreneurship. You have the entrepreneurship. So again, I want to answer your question. When I got out of college, I genuinely looked for a good job. In fact, I delayed my graduation for 6 months because I wanted to be a graduating senior rather than an unemployed graduate. Because I really want to, enhance my position. Yeah, I don't need your job. But there are a lot of other options for me and so forth. I didn't like anything. And whatever I looked, it just didn't sit well with me. I said, okay, I'm going to start. And then I saw an ad in a paper that I could buy from a mail order because, again, I didn't know what a distributor was, what a wholesaler was. I didn't know what I didn't know. And I started this. And honestly, that's why my first token of advice to anyone is go learn on somebody else's dime. If you want to get into an industry, get an internship, get 2 years, 3 years, 5 years into it, understand the ins and outs of the industry, then think entrepreneurial and go. Don't do what I did. I did it because I didn't have a good coach or a mentor. And anyways, I hope I answered your question. That was, my challenge was I had to fit, I got into it. I had nobody else but me and my shadow. So I had to learn it. So I remember there's a group called SCORE, SCORE. These are retired senior execs. They volunteer their time. They put $35 a class, and they teach you accounting 101, marketing 101. I took about 30, 40 of those hours because I didn't know.
Great. Yeah. Yeah.
So
let's talk about the first business you had and how it kind of evolved and when you got to that exit point. Like what was the kind of arc or the process you went through in terms of developing this business around the computers and the assembly and selling, and when did you first kind of realize or think about actually exiting that business or selling that business? Like how did that play out?
In fact, that business is a good example. I started the company in 86. 86 we started the company. 14 years goes by. This is the part that I want to make sure the listeners take away.
Yeah.
During the first 10 years of it, if somebody was asking me to sell my company, I would feel like somebody is making a pass on my daughter. Go. She's my daughter.
How insulting.
Exactly. This is mine. You want to own this? Did you see a for sale sign I didn't see? I would get offended why people are thinking about buying my business. Because, again, this was my baby. And come towards the end, and this is the caveat. I was in the business of building custom computers, heavy-duty ones for really serious users. Back then, there was no Dell. There was, most of the big companies didn't have the fanciest and most, because of my engineering background, I would go build a souped up heavy-duty computer for a physics department at Ohio State, and I would sell it. That was my business model.
Got it.
And going through that, everything was good until it wasn't good. This little company called Dell comes in, and they destroy the model. They produce high-end computers, and they go with low margins, and they understand marketing a lot better than what I learned in a $35 an hour class. Yeah. So make a long story short, I couldn't compete. And now by then, I had about 40 employees. My sales were about $6.5–7 million a year, large overhead. And then I realized, oh my God, I have to do it. I have to think about exit. And I really, that was the indicator that I'm not going to be doing this. And I have used this phrase, I give it to your listeners. When the going gets tough, the smart choose a different path. Don't keep going. When I realized that I can't compete with Dell, I didn't want to say, okay, I'm going to find a way. No. I just basically found a partner, somebody that was a good suitable. And the conversation took about a year and a half before I could sell the company. But that was I would not have sold it had I not gone through the hardship that I did. And I realized the business model is changing, the industry is changing. And every one of your listeners, when they get into a business, I promise them their business plan day one is something very different than day 4 or day 10. Year 10 or year 10. That they have to be flexible and basically look at this on a ongoing basis. The lesson I learned, and I use this thing in my other 2 businesses, the minute you get into a business, plan for exit.
Yeah.
That's
and so in that first one, when you actually went to exit, you said it took about a year and a half. Like, why did it? I guess I'm assuming that you would have loved to make that shorter. Like, it could have been a quicker sale. And why did it take so long? And what were the things that you wish you would have done differently, or things that you learned from that process in terms of how to make that process go
exactly? And a very good question, Bruce. The first answer is I did not have a good mentor and a coach. So I did not make exit a priority. And financially, it cost me a lot. The second part of it was because the industry was going through a change, suitors were lining up. It's just like trying to sell your house at the time, but there's a lot of inventory. Yeah. So again, my company at that time did not look sexy, so I could be talking to 10 buyers. So that's why I had to use diligence and patience. That's why it took about a year and a half.
Yeah. Yeah. And was it those things, was it around kind of the financial structure? Was it the performance of the company? Was it leadership gaps? Like what?
The industry changed. I mean, the business model had to change, and I wasn't ready to reinvent it.
Yeah.
The whole business model had to change.
Again, and who bought it and why? Like
another company in town that was like me, another local competitor, because I realized I can sell it to the national ones. I had to go find somebody like me, and they were ready to modify the business and go forward. But guess what? Even after they bought it after 2 years, they have to fold it because they couldn't.
Yeah, I'm always curious about that. Like what ended
up? No, that didn't. Again, I saw the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
And going through my entrepreneurial journey has really taught me to learn again, School of Hard Knocks. Your eyes are closed, you keep banging your head against the walls. That was one of those that, again, I should have sold it sooner. I should not have been feeling that somebody wanted to buy my company. I should not have basically felt personal about it.
Yeah.
I use this thing because I did M&A for so many years. I'll use it for those entrepreneurs who had the same mindset I had. I say it's illegal, it's immoral to sell babies. And I know your company is your baby. It's illegal, immoral. But guess what? Businesses, it's moral and legal to sell. It's very different. Yeah. It feels like a baby, but guess what? It's not your baby. Yeah. It needs to be passed on. You have to plan for it. And again, that was a lesson that I learned through the hard way.
Yeah. So what did you do differently on your next company? Like, how did you apply your learnings there in terms of how you?
Same way. The company, we sold it after 7 years. I also had a .com company, USA.com. Yeah. I sold it in 1 year. Once I set my mind that I got to get this sold. And the only reason it took that long because I was haggling to get the best bang for the buck for it. And that was a good reason. That was a good wait. I'm glad I did.
Yeah. I guess how do you, either in your personal experiences or the companies you've worked with, kind of balance that, let's get a deal done that's in front of us that is decent versus, hey, look, if we spend another 6 months, 12 months, we can grow it a little bit more, we can get a couple bigger clients, we can, increase valuation, but I now have risk, right? Like I'm continuing to own the company and I have market risk associated. Like, how do you balance that decision making?
Very good question, Bruce. And the answer to that is this: the entrepreneur behind the company or the management team behind the company, whoever owns the company who wants to sell it, they have to be crystal clear why they're doing it. You always sometimes, and I actually went through that exercise myself, and I give you that example. In my last company, sometimes you sell your company not because you're tired, not because you want to get out. Yeah. You realize that the company is not going to go to where it is, to where it should go, on your own efforts. You need extra resources. You need extra things. And the perfect example of that is my last company, the company that, again, my brother just was an equity owner. I came back and we redid it.
Yeah.
Again, I went to the buyer. Remember, I was knocking on the buyer and said, can you buy me? Can you buy me? And the only reason I'm knocking on their door is because that was a private equity group. The private equity group who buys it doesn't buy the company and tell you, wish you goodbye. Many of them understand your core competencies. They realize that if you do a transaction with them, they can bring additional resources, money, marketing dollars, connections, clients, vendors, and basically enhance your business model. So when I sold my company in 2020, the last one, the one that we did during the COVID time, I made sure we kept some equity in the company. And in M&A, they refer to this as a second bite of the apple.
Yep.
And within 4 years, we grew the company, not this time, not with our money, but with the private equity's money. We kept buying companies, we kept enhancing the business plan, and I really applied all the lessons that I learned through all those times. Make a long story short, that was a very good exit. We had a nice 10x success in 4 years on a second bite of the apple. Again, that answers your question. What is the process?
Yep.
Know why you want to sell.
Yeah.
Why do you want to
How do you, not to get too technical on some of these things, but I do find like there is a couple of different sort of opportunities that I find entrepreneurs have, or people that are exiting, owners have when they exit process. And there's kind of deferred comp, which is, hey, look, we're going to hold on to a bunch of money and we're going to pay you out over, say, 3 to 5 years on a structured payment, but it's guaranteed, usually, backed by the asset itself, which is a little sketchy, but it's basically, it's a fixed payment, but it's deferred payment. Then you have an earnout, which is, okay, like we're going to have some kind of payment structure over the next 3 to 5 years, and it's going to be dependent on the company's ongoing performance or something. Like, and you may be in a management position and influencing that performance. You may not be. It just may be, hey, look, I get a little bit more if the company does well. I get less if it doesn't do so well. And then you have second bites of the apple, which is you retain equity, and then post, if there's a second transaction, you get there. How do you kind of help owners, or how would you advise owners in terms of thinking about those different options and which one they want, either based on their own situation and how you're kind of analyzing the deal, like those, because those have different risks and rewards associated with them?
Absolutely. There are several factors in there. The most important one is why the entrepreneur wants to sell. If the entrepreneur is burned, okay, that's you have to structure the deal very differently. But if the entrepreneur says, no, I can do a lot more, I just need more resources, I need some money behind me, I need more staff members and this or that, then that's a different game. That's where you decide, do we put more emphasis on a second bite of the apple? Do we make this thing, all of it cash up front? Little bit of a earnout. Earnout, by the way, earnout is something that the buyers ask for because they want to have the assurance that they don't buy a dud.
Yeah,
basically, exactly. They buy the company and they say, this is your company. You're telling us this is the greatest thing on the planet. We're going to trust you, but we're going to put some money between us and our trust. If we meet these KPIs, if we meet these goals, on the first anniversary, you're going to get X. On the second anniversary, you're going to get Y. And then they usually don't go more than 3 anniversaries. That's on the earnout. So if you want to get cash payments, not earnout, guaranteed cash payments based on this, on so many anniversaries, the seller should have really concerned that, can this buyer really pay those? Because a lot of times you really got to do a lot of due diligence to make sure that the buyer has the ability to pay, and you don't end up after a year paying all the money to lawyers and not getting anything for the company. So you have to look at who the buyer is, most importantly, why you want to sell, and what is your role after you sell. Afterwards, you look at who your buyer is and what can they bring to the table, and what they bring to the table, to what degree is it in line for what you want from that deal.
Yeah. Yeah. And some of these, it's, you may, like, particularly on an earnout or performance-based earnout, where it's, okay, you're going to get more or less based on performance. You really kind of look at, like, how much control do you have over, I mean, once you sell a company, most times you're giving up management control. how do you help them kind of make this decision or kind of calculate that risk of saying, yeah, that the second bite of the apple could be amazing, but like you're giving up control. Like, how do you kind of manage that with these
Very
sellers?
good question. And I give you again another real life example. I just use myself, not the other deals I've been involved. Remember I said I started talking to the buyers, which was a private equity group, 14, 16, 18, and then 19 we closed. On 18th, I got tired of this private equity group. So I get in touch with another company. It's a regional company. They're not a private equity group. It's a family-owned, third generation. They have a lot of money, and the father, the son, the whole family is involved. They were a big company. They decided to buy us, and we negotiated. It was good. Now we go to terms, and this is where it's really addressing your question. On the terms that these guys put in, they were unreasonable. They were basically, this buyer wanted to say, I buy your company, and anything I found wrong with it and all that, you have to pay me. And I'm going to also put these earnouts with these conditions. And you look at those conditions, you realize that there is zero chance you're going to win those. And even if there is a chance, you have no control over it. All the control is being passed on to the buyer. And if you agree to that, you're doing yourself a disservice. So make a long story short, we go to the 11th hour. And I had to tell my brother, who was my partner, say, it's my opinion. And I really wanted that deal to happen. And I said, we're going to say no. And we said no. But this is the other part. You have to do this thing in a very careful way, because if you don't manage the process properly, if your employees sense that you want to sell the business, they start prioritizing their own plans.
Absolutely.
And they're going to say, this guy's heart is not in the business. I got to go find myself another job. And all of a sudden, you're sabotaging your company for something that, because you were trying to be sincere and honest, and you just couldn't hold it. Oh, we're talking to these guys. They're going to buy us. Don't. Get a good M&A guy who, like me, has some white hair, is patient, can calm you down, go through the process, get a good attorney. This is another part. A lot of times, many companies have a company attorney that presented everything. They go to deal. Guess what? They want him to do it. He is not qualified. Why? And in this situation I had with these guys, exactly the same thing. Their corporate buyer was trying to draft the terms of the M&A. He was making a fuss about the stuff that were not material. He was missing stuff that he should be putting it in there. Make a long story short, it's just like you're dealing with an amateur attorney.
So I want to talk a little bit about this question of, you had mentioned telling some of the people in the company, and then once that kind of gets out, then people are looking for jobs, right? Kind of the risk of that.
Yeah.
I guess, how do you decide kind of who to tell and when to tell? I mean, some people you're going to need to have involved. If you've got senior level folks that need to provide information, or that the buying company wants to kind of talk to, like, you're going to need to do some. But how do you make that decision on who do you kind of let in on the process, and when do you do that? Like, give us some guidance on that.
Awesome. The answer is, the goal is to keep it as minimal as possible. In other words, go out of your way, and the other side should understand, I'm talking to buyers, that they cannot talk. Make sure you have a rock solid NDA, and make sure you tell them that NDA is not just for papers. They really mean it, because you got to do it. And this is really essential until you have a firm letter of interest or letter of intent signed.
Okay.
This is really a summary version of the deal. It highlights the key term details, but it's not a 100-page agreement document. It's basically 2 or 3 pages, and it highlights everything that you need to know. At this level, it is my advice not to get anybody from your team involved as much as you can. If you have to, for example, if you have a scientist on your team that must be in, again, those are exceptions, and sometimes you cannot avoid them. My short answer would be, if you can avoid it, avoid it. Yeah. Only leave it a last resort that gets people involved. The less, the better. And even after you sign the letter of intent, and then moving forward, try to only get people that are necessary. Sometimes you could also create a cover story The cover story is we want to do a joint venture partnership with these guys. So it's not a sell. So that way, if they have to go prepare reports, you have to go to your controller and say, I want a sales reports for this or that report for those guys. They don't say why. What you need to do is, this is a joint venture, and we really need to make sure it's done right so nobody gets in trouble. We have to disclose stuff so they can't say we didn't have it, but it's going to be good. We're going to be working closely with these people. So it's not a full acquisition. The challenge is, the minute you say it's an acquisition, a lot of alarms go off on the mind of the employees, and they tell each other if everything falls into the rumor mill, and that's where it becomes counterproductive. I'll give you a good example. The situation we were with the company, because we kept it under wraps, no one other than myself and my partner knew about the deal. That's why when we realized that their term sheet was crap, remember, they give us a good LOI. But the problem was the devil was in the detail that they gave us in a term sheet. I look at it and say, this is crazy. Who wrote this? And their argument was, we've given it to everybody. I said, I'm not everybody. You can't ask me to do this. Anyways, but my point is, if it wasn't just my brother and I, it would have cost us. Employees would get involved, clients get spooked, and it becomes really counterproductive and demoralizing. In fact, in my own case, my own partner and brother, he was PO'd. He comes back after the deal is done. He says, you took 7 months of our time. You know how much I stressed over this for nothing? And I'm saying, yes, but a no deal is better than a bad deal. And he recognized it, but he was really upset about the fact that we lost 7 months. But he's a grown-up, he could deal with it. Many employees don't. So the short answer is, try to get involved as little as you can, as much as you can, push it all to the end. And when you want to deal, when you're on like the final stages of a deal, good buyer would want to talk to your top key clients. You only allow that when your 99.49's there.
It's like the deal is basically done. They've just got to check off.
Exactly. And also, who is your buyer and to what degree do you trust them? And also, who is your advisor on your side? I've been in with my own brother, and also with clients I've had. I had to literally hang up on my client because he had bought the story from his attorney. And I'm yelling at him. This is a good example. We have a closing next morning at 11 a.m. And my client is in Toronto, Canada. And I'm saying, what time are you coming in town? He says, I'm not coming. I say, why? Because these guys changed that term. I'm not happy with it. I'm not going to come. And I had to educate them that you're going to get sued. There's a bank involved. There's a lot of stuff involved. You're going to get sued. And I had to really push him that my attorney says I'm not going to be sued. I said, I don't care where the attorney comes from. Remember, this is one that's using the corporate attorney. I said, do you think that the bank and these guys are just going to say, okay, you're going to be paying damages you don't want? You don't want to do the deal? Come here, raise your concern during the closing meeting. Don't do the deal. But you got to be here. Anyways, you need to have advisors on your side who are giving you advice and they're not yes sir people. You need that because this is the biggest for most entrepreneurs. Every deal is one of your most important transactions in your life. You owe it to yourself, employees, clients, to really have the best team on your side because you really can make mistakes. Anyways.
And when you get some of these folks involved, I've had people on the program that I've kind of had different recommendations around this, but I'm curious on your take is how should you and how can you incent some of the people that you do have to get involved in terms of making sure we get a good deal done, right? It's not necessarily making sure we get any deal done, but are there strategies that you've used or seen in terms of, either, in terms of compensation or bonus or equity, or, not necessarily real equity, but, shadow equity and in some kind of case, phantom equity of including them somehow in the deal proceeds, right? So like if they're going to be involved in helping get this deal done, they're incented financially in some way. Have you seen that work and where have you seen it work?
Okay. You're talking about employees on your side when you want to do the transaction, and these employees You want to give them incentives to cooperate during the deal transaction?
Yeah, just help me get this deal done. Like if we get it done, like you're going to get a $50,000 bonus or something, or you're going to get some financial reward for doing that. Have you seen this work? A couple of people on the program have mentioned this.
Yes, we have. In fact, we have done it. But my advice would be, don't promise it, because if you promise it up front and the deal falls through, now they're pissed. Yeah. You killed the deal and they lost. You promised them 50 grand. I'm just using a round number, and they lost 50 grand because you don't know how to negotiate, or your attorney was a jerk, or whatever. Yeah. The thing is this: nobody would be mad at you going to him and say, we went through this transaction. I really like what you've done, and this is for you. Yeah. They're gonna love it. But here on the flip side of it, if you tell them I'm going to give you $50,000, and you go back to him and say, I told you 50,000. Now it's going to be 49 because we got this other expense that there's no 50. It's got to be 49. Okay, you're taking 1,000 away from me. Yep. You see, don't promise it. My advice would be, leave that. Give them incentives. Give them basically, if you want to talk to them, tell them that this is going to be good. And at best, if you really want to give them a lot, say, I'm going to take care of you. Yeah. Don't put a dollar amount, because the minute you put a dollar amount, you have to live by it. Sometimes the dollar amount is not enough for them, so they may not even cooperate during the deal. Yeah. But when the deal is done, say 50 is all I'm going to get. I said, sorry, this is it. But if you did day one, they wouldn't even come to you to have a deal.
Yeah, exactly. The other one you mentioned in there that I wanted to talk about is with the LOI versus the term sheet and your PSA, your purchase sale agreement and stuff. I guess my philosophy is that I want to see basically every material term defined in the LOI, such that diligence is really only a verification of things that we've already discussed in LOI, and so that we don't get in a situation where, hey, look, okay, in diligence I start changing the deal terms, because I'm finding things like I don't want to be in that situation on the diligence side. I want to have that stuff really in the LOI. How have you seen kind of good LOI structured and bad LOI structured that either help, get a deal done, or can be problematic in terms of, if it's not in the LOI and it happens later, it can cause drama on the deal side or potentially hurt valuation or getting haircuts on deal valuations. What do you look for in an LOI to make sure that that's going to work well?
Again, seriously, having not just an attorney, because when you deal with an attorney, he's looking at it from the legal perspective. Yeah. But a lot of times it's not legal. It's business side, the essence of the effective down on the ground impact of a sentence being on an LOI or not being. That's where having a good advisor on your side is really helpful, because one comma, one sentence can make a difference. And going back to your point, two things. You cannot have your LOI be 100 pages. Nobody does that. It's not. So it has to be 2 to 3 pages. The key point you have to do is, if you know it yourself or you have good advisors, they look at those 2-3 pages, and they, because of what they know is going to happen, they leave broad sentences or basically discuss scenarios, and they close certain things and they leave some things open. They leave the ones open that could be to their advantage, and they close the ones that are not. For example, you could say, I'm just using this as an example, you could say that reps and warranties, we are not willing to give you reps and warranties more than 18 months, period. Mm-hmm. You need to say that on an LOI, not wait for the term sheet. Because, and why? Because you don't want to deal with them if it's going to be more than 18 months. I'm just using it as an example. Yeah. And the buyers prefer not to put it in there. The buyers like to go to the 12th hour and then basically at that time tell you that at that time they tell you, oh, this is what we want. So my 2 cents, anything that you think could be material, important, negotiate up front, at least put a sentence or 2 in an LOI. You cannot make LOI to be really that detailed. If you're concerned about due diligence, for example, you could put a sentence in your LOI that says, if we do the due diligence and the numbers are by this dollar amount less, we're not going to worry about it. But if it's more than that, we worry about it. So you leave areas open that you could still continue doing the deal and not have a problem.
Yeah, and what I guess what have you seen that has blown up deals? Like if you look at deals that have gone into diligence, and you start getting under the covers, and you really kind of get into the nature of the company. What typically comes up, or what have you seen come up that has either really kind of hurt a deal in terms of valuation or the terms, or has actually scuttled the deal because you can't get it done?
Yeah. Not to sound like a broken record, but honestly, 90% of it is not having a good seasoned team on your end, on your side. Because again, you don't see, you go into a deal with your eyes kind of closed because you don't have good advisors, and then you go in the middle and you say, oh, I can't do this. And then everything falls apart. Besides that, let me go to very specific things that the entrepreneur sellers should really be concerned about. First of all, make sure that you know how you're going to come through your due diligence. You know that if these guys come in and turn everything, they're not going to find this skeleton in a closet. If there are skeletons in a closet, don't hide them. Don't expect the buyer to be a stupid buyer, because they're not. So many of these buyers are sophisticated. Even if they don't look sophisticated to you, they use sophisticated advisors. You go to the 11th hour, and this thing you try to hide is going to come out, and you're going to look bad. And the minute that happens, you break trust, and there's no deal. So again, build everything on trust. Understand what you have. If you have skeletons in your closet, disclose them.
Everyone.
Let them know.
There's always skeletons in closets. Just to get them out there early.
Yeah, I know, exactly. But you got to tell them, because it's if you don't, and if it's a serious skeleton, that's what would torpedo the deal. And you know what would be even worse than that? That skeleton doesn't come, the deal is closed, 6 months has gone into it, and you have an earnout, and this skeleton comes up. Now everybody's going to go back to the reps and warranties and the agreement, and everybody's going to attorney up, and then guess what? You're doomed, because now the deal has happened. Everybody knows about it. You've told the world you sold your company, and it's not going to work. That's why a lot of companies go into legal mess and all that. So the short answer is, be ethical, be straightforward, be firm, and be candid. If you have a skeleton in your closet, say, look, I've got this skeleton. For that, I'm asking for this discount. I'm giving you this discount. Done. And get those out of the way. Things that are important for you, reps and warranties, their attorney is going to ask for more. If you're not comfortable with it, tell them. When I did the deal, when the deal fell apart in 2018 for our company, and I had to go tell my brother, okay, he got mad. He said, we wasted 7 months. These guys are not ethical. I'm tired of doing this. We took our eyes off the ball of growing organically. Now let's just go buy some companies if you want to do it unorganically. But I'm done selling my company. So we go for about 3-4 months. Nothing happens. And now I go back to this company. I've been tapping on their shoulders since 2014. And now they want to do the deal. With them, because of Alan's experience with what basically the sour taste that he left in his mouth because of what happened, I went to these guys and say, guys, every one of them should be on your LOI. These are the top 3. Everything that was a problem with the previous transaction, I made sure they are proactively addressed. Day one. And I went to my brother and said, remember you told me we're not going to do a deal? We're going to do a deal because of this. And I had to put the term sheet and said, remember that? They're going to say yes. Yes. So again, make sure anything that is a concern or you or your advisor think could be a point of the problem, that you get that out of the way early on. The sooner you do, the better, the easier.
And as you've kind of proceeded in your entrepreneurial journey and set up these new businesses, you mentioned a couple of times, starting businesses from day one with the idea of exiting and selling. Like, what does that mean? Like, what have you done? Like, in terms of starting a new business, what do you do to actually make sure that is, more sellable, or you're going to get a better valuation? Like, what does that mean practically?
Okay, very good question. Basically, start with the end in mind. I'll give you a very real life example. A few days ago, I work with a lot of startups, and this gentleman reaches out to me through some people we mutually know, and he asked for a meeting, and he knows I invest, and so he wants me to invest in his company. So he's been in this thing for 11 years. So the first thing I ask is, how long you been doing this? I want to know, is this guy green or what? He's been doing this for 11 years. I say, oh my gosh, that's good. Now he has some experience under his belt. But here's just addressing your point of start with the end in mind. So we go through the conversation and all that, and he gives me his what he wants to sell, that I'm giving away this much equity for this much convertible note kind of money. That's what I'm offering to the investors. And then I asked the question, are there any other investors in your company? Oh, yeah, there are, but I'm going to buy them out. Okay, can you tell me more about that? Yes. He says, I have 3 investors. They've put $1.1 million into this during the past 11 years, and they own 30% of the company. I have gone to them and I've asked them that I will, because they own that much equity, I can't raise any money. I'm willing to buy all their 30% for $50,000, and they have to go away, and they've agreed. I said, wow, so you treat your investors that nicely? He said, yeah. I said, and you want me to be the next investor? Yeah, but this is different because now my business plan has changed, blah, blah, blah. So anyways, and I said, where are you going to get the 50 grand? And he says, from the investors, the new investors. I'm going to get the 50,000 they pay me so I can buy those guys and bring that 30% back equity to the company. I said, nothing about this makes sense. If you raise some money, and I'm one of those who own some money, I'm going to say, you sold 2% of this company for $200,000. You want to buy my old 30% for 50? I'm not going to sell. Do you have it in writing that he's going to sell? Yeah, I got some emails from them. And I'm saying, oh my gosh. So basically, in a nutshell, here, and then also I asked him this other question, which exactly, I said, okay, then let me ask you something very different. You've been with these guys for 11 years. You do not have an exit. Your only exit is to basically, you just $50,000. They pay you $1.1 million. You just give them $50,000, which is insulting, and just push them away. What is your next big, when are you going to exit next? What is your exit plan? He says, I don't know. I have to grow the company first. Okay, are you growing this company? Are you planning this company? You're the entrepreneur. Is it going to go to a point that it could be sold in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? What is it? I don't know. I said, well, you just took money from those guys for 11 years, and now you're telling them go to hell, and now you want to come back to new guys and ask for money, and they said, where are you going to sell? You say, I don't know. So my point is, know why you're getting into something. If you want to buy many startups, you want to know when you want to start, where you want to go, at what point. You don't have to necessarily sell. You need to merge it with a larger organization and take a position with them and do a second bite, third bite of an apple. But again, know why you're getting into it. Just going into something because it's cool and get some money from friends and family and all that, that doesn't help you or them. You really need to know why you're getting into it. You have to be emotionally comfortable with the fact that someday the ownership of that company can go 100%, more than 90% to somebody else. Come into peace with that, understand it, create KPIs for yourself when you want to do it, and go about this with purpose. Why are you doing this? Why are you starting this startup? If you want to make a difference, okay, how are you going to scale this up? And at least think about it, plan for it. Don't go, oh, let's try this thing, we worry about that. We don't have anything now. No, the sooner you know what your game plan can change, but you have to have a plan. The sad side of it is, like many things, when you have a plan, it happens as planned. When you don't have a plan, it still happens, but without a plan. And what is that?
Yeah, whether you're controlling it or it's controlling you, it's going to get done.
Exactly, and that's where why so many businesses fail, because day one they don't really think why. That why is a big question. Why am I doing this? Why am I not getting a job? Why am I doing this? Sometimes you get a job because you want to go start a company, but now that you want to start a company, why are you starting it? What's your game plan? When are you going to get out of this? when is the next step? When is the next phase you want to, change something?
Sam, this has been a pleasure. If people want to find out more about you, about
Thank
your
you.
background, about the work that you do, what's the best way to get that information?
Best way would be on LinkedIn. I hope you can put some information on them so they could do it. My phone number. They could read it out off your screen when you edit this. But LinkedIn, Sam Arman. I joke about my name. It's Armani without the I. And as my wife corrected me, Armani without the style. So Sam is Sam and Armani. That, my picture would be there. So love to connect with people.
I love it. I'll make sure that link is on the show notes. Sam, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.